March the 7th, 2009. South Australia headed across the Nullarbor to take on arch rivals Western Australia. These two first met last year in the Stratco Cup in Adelaide, and South Australia came out on top 3-0. Many thought that this was going to be a game decided on aggregate. However, it was decided it was a one-off result. Whoever won the day would win the Stratco Cup. It was a very hot day in Perth, and South Australia had the disadvantage of having had their flight cancelled and therefore only arrived early in the morning on the day of the match. Referee Stephen Gregory brought proceedings underway. South Australia dominated early and had plenty of possession, but it was in fact Western Australia who probably created the best chance thanks to some poor defending by South Australia. Chance falling to Todd Harmwell, but he just couldn't bring the ball under control. And Daniel Godley, the former A-League goalkeeper for Adelaide United, cleaned up at the back. But South Australia fought back, and it was good work down the left-hand side that saw them create the first opportunity with the ball played in, and Matrisani bringing a good save out of goalkeeper Neil Young. Neil Young threw the ball up the park, and it was in fact later that Onoforo, wide on the right-hand side, a little bit of trickery from the Perth player, looked up, found his teammate, good dummy there, and Nagliero put it into the top right-hand corner with Godley stranded. Watching the replay once again, Onoforo, good work on the right-hand side, a fantastic dummy by Harmwell, leaving Naglieri in plenty of space, and he calmly side-footed it into the net. It was good teamwork by the two Perth players who combine on a weekly basis for their club here in Western Australia. Following that, a corner to the West Australians, who were buoyed by their confidence, and it was Harnwell, brother of Jamie from the Perth Glory fame, who hit the post with a fantastic volley at the back post, looking to lengthen Western Australia's advantage, but just a coat of paint preventing him. Coach Robbie Dunn seemed pretty pleased with proceedings, not agitated at all, but it was South Australia who came back into the game, but it was too late as the referee blew the whistle for the end of the first half. South Australia started the second half as they had ended the first half, with the ascendancy, some good interplay between their players, but once again there was nothing in the final ball, as we'll see from this attack here, shooting over the bar. It was the story for South Australia as they did that. Western Australia, though, bounced back. Andy Brown, the captain of Western Australia, picked up the ball just inside the South Australia half. Surging run into the box and a great finish past an outstretched Godley into the left-hand bottom corner. Stretched Western Australia's lead to 2-0. It was a fantastic piece of play by the West Australian captain. As we see here, he surges towards the back line, which looks pretty open for South Australia, and Godley had no chance with a crisp, right-footed finish into his bottom left-hand corner. Despite the 2-goal lead, the WA coaches, Robbie Zabika and Robbie Dunn, former Socceroos, neither looked too impressed with proceedings. Mark Anthony picked up the ball. He was dominant for Western Australia throughout the game, the former Celtic player. Found David Masevski wide on the right-hand side, an unfamiliar position for him for the former Perth Glory player. But good trickery, he laid the ball back into the path of Naglieri, who played it into again his teammate Onoforo and returned the compliment of the first goal, a wonderful volley by the Perth striker, David Onoforo, to stretch WA's lead to 3-0. Watching the replay, it was a wonderful ball in by Naglieri, a little bit behind Onoforo, but he did well to drag the ball from behind him, past Godley in the goal, and there was nothing the outstretched keeper could do with the ball coming across him, and once again nestling in the left-hand corner of his net. South Australia, though, weren't done by here. They continued to attack and try and fight, but it was again WA there on the attack. Good work, though, by Harnwell. Naglieri finding a player out on the left, that was Howarth. Howarth cutting in field and was brought down, resulting in a free kick on the edge of the South Australia box. Mark Anthony jumps over it, Naglieri strikes it well, and it was a wonderful save by Daniel Godley. Probably the most important of his game, 3-0 down. But despite being 3-0 down, South Australia continued to attack and Western Australia continued to defend valiantly. In fact, it was Jim Stavridis who was on replacing Simon Catanzaro, picked the ball up inside the WA half. His forward ball to Chad Bajaya was perfect and he found Matria Siani in the box, who rounded WA goalkeeper Neil Young to put it into an empty net. Pulling a goal back there for South Australia, and the bench were pretty happy because they thought there was still a chance they could get back in the game. As we see here, Bajaya's ball for Matria Siani was superb. Neil Young came off his line and the young striker, who'd squandered a few chances in the first half, placed the ball into the empty net. 3-1 to Western Australia. That goal sparked Western Australia back into life and the tackles were flying in from both sides. Former Perth Glory and Celtic player Mark Anthony did well on the right-hand side to find skipper Andy Brown. His long ball forward found Onofuro on the edge of the box, and falling over he found Perth teammate Antonio Naglieri, and his left foot strike soared into Godley's top left-hand corner once again to stretch WA's lead. It was good play by the Perth striker Onofuro. Falling over at the edge of the box, he held the ball up well. Naglieri checked his stride and struck a wonderful strike with his left foot into the top left-hand corner of Godley's goal. 3 goals to Godley's left. Not much he could have done about this one. It was a wonderful strike by Perth's Player of the Year. South Australia, however, were not finished, and Mimi Saric, taking a quick throw on the left-hand side, found Delicio, got the ball back and played it to the far post to Chad Bajaya, who beat replacement goalkeeper Phil Straker at his near post with an excellent header. Robbie Dunn, former Australian defender, would not have been pleased with the defending by his WA side there, leaving Chad Bajaya completely unmarked at the back post. But Mimi Saric producing a great cross, something he was unable to do during his time at Perth Glory on this very ground, Members Equity Stadium. That goal in the 85th minute didn't leave South Australia much time to come back in the game, and Stephen Gregory brought the game to a close, meaning that Western Australia had overcome their South Australian opponents by 4 goals to 2, avenging that game last year where they'd gone down by 3 goals to 0 in South Australia. West Australian captain Andy Brown was very happy to come up, not only receive his players' medal, but also the Stratco Cup, which he'd not been able to get his hands on down in South Australia. In fact, he almost looked a little bit shy as he received the trophy.